another Kaazon's Truth production. Let's go. Yes, indeed. Another Kaazon Truth production. A follow-up, a breakdown, a revisit, and a historical record as of to this date will be what we'll be discussing tonight. Some of the people will be Brian of the Cajun Navy, Harvey, TMZ, John Whitlock, Negro University, Ben Crump, wouldn't dare be reading nothing for me, period. He's usable. He's usable. Can't deny that. Him and Al, you can't deny that. But that lip action, no, I do believe I've been solely responsible. If anything, to be honest, there probably would have been a cut of my wife and I fussing about her, which I can't imagine why, in 26 years. Trying to manage how and what I'm about to say. And me respectfully, honey, I decline. How it comes out, it comes out. Kaazon's Truth, sit back. We finna go. No doubt. Fully aware we do not own the rights to this music. Matter of fact, the K Factor. If you aren't subscribed, please go over there and subscribe. It's a more entertainment situation, but yet we do get serious, and we are in the middle of court, and we are operating out of the state of Georgia over there. Kaazon's Truth, along with the K Factor, both operate, maintain under the Copyright Act of 1976. Our specific interest is Section 107. Everything that will be shown will be for commentary, criticism, education, news, and research. All rights belong to the respective owners of the material that we will be using as a part of our review. Anything outside of that could and most likely be infringing. That's why we give all rights to the respective owners. If you have any questions or concerns, by all means, please, by all means, I say, please email me, kaazon@gmail.com. as we just shuffle our notes and get our things together here. That red drum you see up in that picture, I didn't say red snapper. I said red drum. It itself is from out of the Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, whichever one you choose. Nolan Wells family live in between 45 to an hour minutes to my west, down I-10. I say that because the travel will depend on the causeway in Mobile, Alabama. I myself reside in Pensacola, Florida. I frequent Biloxi all the time since I've been here. In order for me to get to Biloxi, not maybe, not kinda, sorta, not how this investigation is going, I most certainly have to go through Ocean Springs. I cannot get to Biloxi without going through Ocean Springs. Whether I'm on I-10 or US 90. If you know, you know. I have it up on the screen necessarily. I mean, not necessarily, but if necessary, we could blow it up a little bit. Gulfport. We talking Cat Williams, Jill Scott. We're talking about my wife is from Mississippi. West Side, dead in the middle. Another, get this, just in case some of my people out of Troy, Alabama get this. My wife is from Pike County, Mississippi. As I lived in Pike County, Alabama. I didn't say I was from there. I said I lived there. I'll even go further to say I became a man there. Home of Troy, which was formerly Troy State University, now called just Troy. Pike County, Alabama. Wife is from Pike County, Mississippi. Last point I'll make on this. I'm not going to say all. Most of the counties that are found in Mississippi, they are also in Alabama. Mississippi is the oldest. That's Big Ma. For many of you, which I'm not going to go through tonight, many of you, you understand, are a part of those people. And they were called the Mississippians. Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana's big sister, home of the Mississippi River. Huh? You understand? Mississippi is not French. It's not Spanish. No. It's not English. M-I, crooked letter, I, crooked letter, I, humpback, I. Mississippi, the greater state. My wife and R&B singer Brandy are from the same town. Nevertheless, we're going to stick to the Gulf Coast. Horn Island, Dolphin Island, Ship Island. They mainly come into play, or you hear about them during, like what we just semi-experienced over the last 96 hours. And that was a tropical something, low pressure, that flirted and adopted the name Bertha as she slid by. And I was thinking about that too. I had my fingers crossed that the weather would be fair and impartial for them to get through the young man's service. We are still at, even with the independent, I'll talk speak back. What happened to Nolan Wells? Now, to Ben Crump's credit, he struggled with the same thing I struggle with. That my father would be a little disappointed because he would struggle not. And that is the Latin word to the autonomy of the body. Right? Decompensation versus decomposition. Now, listen here. Tell you something else, too. Because the brother cannot read, therefore he cannot speak. He should have been the last person. And that's one of the issues that I take. But again, I know this is like beating a dead horse, but eventually, you keep thinking about it and putting 1 and 2 together, you're going to say Kaazon's told the truth. Because he is limelight Ben. Therefore, he has to take on the corresponding liability. However, get this now. You got to get this. The 13th Amendment said no involuntary servitude. None. However, it didn't say anything about voluntarily. Didn't mention it. Didn't bring it up. Therefore, it could be interpreted that it itself is fair game. And that's when you see him go in between, in and out. Nolan's mother and father wants to fill in the blank. Or he put it on the black people. And he is within his rights because he knows you're not black. But he also knows there is money, not for, but in such people who self-identify as black. I want you to hold that right there for just a second. Think about it. There's so many trying to fight me on it, but I'm not going nowhere. And my position is going to stand long after I'm gone. Fine. The people in 35 on up that made up in their mind, I don't care, I'm black. I don't care what nobody, you ain't gonna stop me from being a black man, a black woman. You ain't gonna stop me, I'm black. You little liar. You little liar. You's a liar. You's a liar. And if your mammy told you that, she's a liar. If some of y'all take your little fair-skinned child out there and her or his arm don't match that car tire, and you still stand there and tell that child that they are black, not only are you a liar, you committing child abuse. You little sapsucker, you. This is the main reason why Mississippi and her children, those are the counties. We're talking about Jackson County. I explained to you earlier, my wife is from Pike County. The counties are the children. Because I am your selected historian, and I don't have any take. I'm not looking to embezzle, take, get anything out of you, but for you to be in due standing for yourself and your children and set the record straight for your parents. You running around using your own tongue, your own lips, your own air, fist pumping that you are something that you are not. You thus therefore open up all that comes with being such a thing that you are not. Nolan Wells and his family have found themselves dead slap in the middle of the Christian black codes, aka black codes, for such people who want to be black. Meaning, we, us, them, they don't have to tell you yet. Ben Crump says, I couldn't move the body due to there being such a weather issue. I don't believe him. Real quick, just remember when you hear anytime, whether we're here, the K factor, anytime you hear the word belief, we define things over here. We define it. Believe means I don't know. Huh? Believe means you don't know. Believe means we don't know, but we will accept a body of literature, folklore, mythology, I don't know, history. We will accept something that we will attach to, thus therefore making what we believe equate to truth. Do you understand? Because Nolan family has found themselves traveling under the black codes, when Ben Crump said, it took a minute to get the body there, we'll just, do it about some bad weather, I didn't believe it. I said, no. I'm willing to put everything on. The state of Mississippi said, boy, who in the hell do you think you is? We will release to you the body when we get good and T got ready. We done ran your ass up out this town up here where the baby was unalive. Once again now, you got a situation up there where the girl was like, I ain't stole nothing. Whatever the driver, I paid for my stuff and was gone. Nevertheless, a baby. 2 people were injured, with it subsequently causing the child, the baby, its life. Now, because the baby fell up under the black codes, they had the baby down for a juvenile, young person, young man. Look, man. But they had that. We don't have to release video until we want to. We can use the word investigating until the cock crow. What are you going to do? What is the... Why? What is the... You heard the governor. He straight up double tongue. I know nothing. I know it don't seem to be no foul play. Wait. A light is either off or on. There is no in between. In a few seconds here as I prepare myself. And if you rock with so far so good. If you don't rock with Kaazon's truth, did I not have you ready before the independent autopsy report came out? Did I not already have you prepared? Did I not tell you they're going to put organs, body parts in bag that goes into the cavity of the chest. If they nice about it, they'll put some absorbent around it that can be easily washed out. Why cut? Skin around the skull is cut. Then the skull is cut. Huh? What they're not, look, whatever's not being donated, which there's nothing not really going to be too much donated after nobody done been found. That's mainly in the hospital, right on the fly site. I'm talking about on site. Now, let's get ready to take a tiptoe because the question remains the same. Fair question. What happened to Nolan Wells? There are people putting race into it where people who ain't said nothing about race is yet being forced on people that it's about race. Even though these people, not these people, they ain't even, they just want to know what happened to Nolan Wells. The facts are what the facts are. If he was the only ADOS, if it was to hear the Tatum guy say that Warren says thousands, at least we're going to start at 1,000. Well, that's a significant number in between 200 or 300 versus 1,000. Now, I don't know. That's hard for me to jive with. If you say 2 or 3, I'm going to round that up. Well, 2 or 3, I'm going to round that up to 5. You say 7 or 8, okay, then I might go ahead up towards 1,000. But 2 or 3 to 1,000, Tatum, you guys, y'all have to understand. We'll come back over that. He is doing what they call leading. He's leading the talker in the direction that he wants him to safely go in. Now, if he that bad and he feel like his information will stand if only properly given out, as Tatum, and if he man enough, he'll take somebody from the opposing side to do a cross-examination of the direct. I'll even let him lead most of the time. Let's get in. Let's start knocking out some of this. It's been almost a 20-minute introduction. Let me make sure we straight on this so there's no misunderstanding. All my videos will contain somewhere in the beginning, middle, or the end reminding you, I'm outright kind of demanding you, it's just that important. If it wasn't so, I wouldn't say so. I'll take my ass on fishing somewhere. told you, I do live on the Gulf Coast. Huh? You understand? I really do. And anybody that's, boy, you better look. Anybody that know me know I hunt big game out that water. You understand? Ain't no, oh, let me just pull this in and just flip it up here. No. We talking about 25, 30-minute fight. We talking about you wish you have somebody with you that can got doggone squeeze some got doggone water or some Gatorade in you. If you out there in that daytime. We talking about that third eye. You understand? That third eye. Big game. I go back fishing. Fine, they want to be black. Those people that know me, man, so, hey, because we going to lay it out there. I just want to get enough to just, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then, because when I swing, I don't miss. Shouldn't even have to be really getting that far in depth, but it's just that important. You can't, you're placing yourself up under the very thing that you're crying about, how you being treated. I guarantee you. Never mind. Let's get to work. All right before we get ready to dive into this, please hit that like button. Subscribe if you are not. If you get where I'm coming from and you feel like it'll help somebody, if you get it, please share this. Please do. Other than that, you can Zelle through the email. Email is also used for any questions or concerns or further elaboration on whatever subject matter we are covering here. $ Kaazon Senior. That's Kaazon, capital S as in Sam, R as in railroad, followed by the $. All right, let's get to work. And I will be chiming into this. This was so unnecessary. Like this, the way this went, Nolan Wells' mother would have did a better job in reading this and would have then let's go.
An autopsy will be provided for the media at press@bencrump.com. And so, Mr. Jones, keep that. I'll need this. So, Dr. Roger Mitchell, board certified forensic pathologist, performed a preliminary report on the death of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19th, 2026. Preliminary report.
This whole ordeal started. As far as I'm concerned, my timeline, I'm still sticking with 3 p.m. The 4th of July, the 250th birthday of the United States, not America, and also my anniversary of 24 years, all on the same day. Okay.
Second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death, undetermined, pending investigation.
And I can understand that so far. You should too. Even I said all along, they got lucky because they had help in paying for it. Most people wouldn't have the luxury of paying for an independent autopsy. Flying it to Washington, New York. Is the CDC still in Atlanta? Damn, I don't even know. Can't remember. Anyway, the average family just couldn't afford to do that. Once you make that first cut,
statement of examination, this forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy.
And you are now doing a second one, you're making a second cut. Whether we're talking about here, whether we're talking about with Baby Cohen or anybody else, you get a second, you're coming in number 2. I'm sorry. You just will not know exactly anything, no more than what's in the report, pictures if added, and the body and the contents within. You won't know.
Examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age, 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death.
Race. Black. He black? Okay. All right. There is money in them. They're not never going to get their money not being black. Therefore, I'm not going to be able to get mine because people want to be black. And there is no such people on the planet. A Nigerian can be darker than you. He a Nigerian. He ain't black. He has a home state. He has a history. He has a flag. You can go point to it. Where's the country of black? And where's a black flag at other than that roach spray? Please explain. No such people exist. Could have just put American. And if they wanted to add some substance to it, you could have just put descendant of slavery. Everybody could have nodded to that. Okay, then. We know. Yeah.
Unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026.
And as I said before, when this first popped off, I tried to write Nolan's mother through Facebook and tell them Ben Crump at that time was 96 hours behind the ball, the game. 96 hours. That's like 4 days. He was behind. Listen. Because people act like you can't include this part, which then makes me really question their motive. For them to be trying to paint this picture that Nolan was a drunk who decided to swim from the island back to mainland, which could be anywhere from 10 to 12 miles, depending on when you first hit the water. He went and got hyped up with a girl, got zooted up. 2 conflicting stories, really 3. I'm going to get back on the boat. He said he wanted to go hook up with Katie. He said he wanted to stay. Period. Guess we can pick one. Okay.
Preliminary findings, and this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time.
I had to write that down when I said idiot. And what else?
He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation.
Stop right there. This is when you be like, at this time, I'd have had to stand up. I would have refused to have this man making a public record with my son's name in it. I know that Nolan's dad had to want to stand up. Right? He's in an awkward position. He didn't pre-read. Like, I know, look, Ben, I know you got a lot going on. And hell, you might even feel like, and maybe you have. Maybe there are plenty out there that will make a very, very good argument. You've done some good. Like I said, if I'm in Elmo's shoes, every time I say that, I feel like I'm being disrespectful because my father and grandfather were Elmo and Elmo Jr. Anyway, you should have had like rehearse. I know you got a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. You should have maybe assigned this to someone. I mean, because the main deal is they were interested and wanted to know what this report was going to say. Not so much of you getting up here butchering. And I know that doctor got to be just upset. Not only that, let's keep moving.
He said corona incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso.
And if you, Kaazon's true. We little peeps right now. Don't worry. I'm going to remember who was in my early days. Trust me. But you will agree. I already gave you a heads up. From the Y shape, out of skull, all the way to your suit jacket. Especially the jacket the men put on. Huh?
And he talked about the organs being removed as is common.
See, this is what you call reading and not like, I felt bad for them people the way they heard that in the audience. This is also evidence that people hear what they want to hear. But then you also have to put some on the reader. Ben Crump.
Is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He said corona incision of the scalp, brain removal, Y-shaped incision of the anterior torso, and he talked about the organs being removed as is common, accompanied in the body cavity. And that when you have an autopsy, the organs are removed from the body and they are dissected and examined. And then they are put back in a bag within inside the body. So when they're buried, their remains will all be with them. But in this occasion, if there's going to be a second autopsy, then the organs are put in the body cavity so the second pathologist could be able to examine the organs as well.
But they go in that bag regardless. After the first, you was doing fine. You was doing fine on your explanation. They do it. They put it in the bag. From there, the body is going from there to the funeral home. We have no reason whatsoever under the sun to open up the bag. All we do is add the same type of sorbent you see most gas stations have, in case someone leaks some gas or oil or what may have you. It almost looked like cat litter, if you will. You fill that in the rest of the area so that when you reclose back up the Y cut, everything is nice and firm. And he's right, the body parts are with you. Well, that's the same way they came. He's almost making it sound like they reconstruct the body, which they do not. What do you mean reconstruct? You're right about it. Meaning they're going to put the stomach, the lungs, the heart, the brain. They're going to put everything back in its original spot within the body. That's the way he made it sound. He kind of split these, and there was no reason to do that. Now, he did try to clarify. I would have just stopped. I wouldn't have been in no hurry. Family, just like how I'm explaining it to y'all now. That's the same way I would explain it to them. Anytime the body, when they're done doing and looking at what they want to look at, it's time for the body to go from there to the funeral home. This is a common practice. This is how it travels.
Very significant for Dr. Mitchell was that the anterior inner neck structures were absent, not received with the body. And we'll explain that in just a minute. And then it talks about the additional procedures performed during the second autopsy. And we'll go into the paragraphs on that there because he explains it better in his narrative. So where's the first page of the discussion? Not the diagram yet. Diagram on there. So he talks in the preliminary discussion opinion. This forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered, like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes. Marked decompensation can obscure the presence and absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th of July.
All right. Now, I need him to be a little clearer. I see where one part of this, okay, let's look at it this way. If that part is true and they're talking about the front part of the body, which would have been, I'm assuming, would have been the part that would have been face down in the water and then was washed back on the shore. That would almost eliminate the argument they did something to him. Well, you know what? See, that's why this is Kaazon's truth. Because if I change it, if I see another direction, I don't mind rethinking it right here with you. That doesn't eliminate that. That still could have been, it would have just depend on when exactly the body would have been taken back from wherever people assume this was done. I tell you one thing, and I'm just throwing this in there as a caveat. Had they would have been mistaken and that picture of Nolan in the swimming pool, if that would have been true, that picture was taken roughly around 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning, and he had, instead of salt water, he had chlorine swimming pool water in him. Okay, we have something to talk about. As it stands right now, because remember, Bryant said the body didn't seem waterlogged, which I'm telling you, I'm starting to. Bryant, my friend, I think you're trying to play both sides. And in the movies, that don't come out too well. Okay? You be a man about it now. You take a side, you pick a side and stick with it. Or be quiet. Stop making these rounds. Tell people you're not qualified to talk on the subject. You're a finder. Your people, the team, they did their part. Mission complete. Return back to base, sir. Or the back was fine. The water damage part, I'm going to call it, and all of that insists of bloating, decomposition, gases, just those signs of being in salt water, warm water. Because if this all happened on late Saturday, then we're talking all the day on Sunday. And Fountain, I don't call 8:45. I get up at 3 a.m. I get up early in the morning. 8:45, in my opinion, is not early in the morning. That's mid-morning. So in my quick conclusion on that part is, I led out the door looking at it one way. In the process of me getting ready to bring that to you, Brian May could be explaining it correctly from what he saw and where he saw it from and what it appeared like from there versus what it actually looked like.
For these reasons, additional dissection procedures not performed during the first autopsy examination were performed to rule out potential blunt force injuries responsible for the death. These procedures included facial dissection, posterior head and neck dissection, dissection of the ribs, the pelvic, dissection of the subcutaneous and deep soft tissue, dissection of the back, the buttocks, the arms, and legs. He did all of this to rule out things. He ruled out there were no fractures or deep tissue injuries identified. This was very important because he wanted to be very thorough and very transparent, because transparency is the key.
Right. Therefore, now, I didn't see it, but I heard plenty about it. Those people that jumped online saying he was urinated on and set on fire, they hereby, from the independent doctor, not the one working for the state or on behalf of the state, this man out of state would allege, and from my understanding, no ties to the greater state of Mississippi. Therefore, that makes them a liar, right? I don't think YouTube mind you just calling them a straight out liar. Therefore, should have a penalty and fine to pay, in my opinion. Oh, right there.
And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered, like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes Marked decompensation can obscure the presence and absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th of July. For these reasons, additional dissection procedures not performed during the first autopsy examination were performed to rule out potential blunt force injuries responsible for the death. These procedures included facial dissection, posterior head and neck dissection, dissection of the ribs, the pelvic, dissection of the subcutaneous and deep soft tissue, dissection of the back, the buttocks, the arms, and legs. He did all of this to rule out things. He ruled out there were no fractures or deep tissue injuries identified. This was very important because he wanted to be very thorough and very transparent, because transparency is the key to getting to the answers of why Nolan Wells is not with us. So he did that there and was very straightforward, very open, very open. He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8-inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. He talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head?
Now, you know, I predicate myself on keeping my primary focus on knowledge. Although I have openly admitted 1,000 times, I, in any capacity, is affiliated with the medical field. My father, on the other hand, was a medic in the Air Force. His sister, my aunt, worked in cardiology. And their mother, my grandmother, was a nurse. Believe she went back and got her degree on up in her 50s. Pretty impressive, Granny. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you the nurse. I'm Kaazon Johnson. I'm the grandson of Francis Johnson. Her husband was named Elmo Sr., which makes my father Elmo Jr. No relationship to the Wells or the Walmsleys. So those are the medical people in my family that, if given the opportunity, I would refer to. I do have my mother-in-law. She was an ER nurse. So I'll run some of this by her. But give me a second. I want to slide this over a little bit. I'm going to slide this over just a little bit for you. Okay. All right. Now, other than the one doctor that was on, I believe Nancy Grace was explaining how if the body lays on its back long enough, that it is possible that blood can pool there. Okay. I got another thing to throw in there from experience now. Although I've never worked in the medical field, I definitely worked my years at a funeral home in the back, hands on. You know what that looks like to me? If this was thrown in front of me with no other information whatsoever, that's almost where the area where what I call and has always called it the death rock. It's a rock brick looking system shaped like a U to hold that part of your head when you up on the slab. Being embalmed, being sewed back up from an autopsy, just making sure all the bells and whistles that are provided from a funeral home to prepare a body for open casket funeral. There are certain steps that we go through. And that's right about the area where the head would be on the death rock. Last I'm going to say on that is if there wasn't any note of it from the primary, or not as of yet, see, that's the thing. That's the whole problem I have with a second autopsy. You just do not have a complete picture as the first one. And if it wasn't noted, it almost would side on the argument of the doctor that was on the Nancy Grace show, who said that due to the body laying and the blood flowing, of course, gravity is pulled to that area. Also, then again, he could have got injured, but there wasn't any primary note of that area, which means it may or may not existed. It's hard to say. I mean, they already didn't send notes and pictures. I mean, there's no transparency. It's almost like an attitude, kind of like to me. Oh, y'all don't want to take our word for it? Fine then. Find what you can find. Here, body, slap, bam, boom, and then ship it.
And so he was important to note that in his report. He said that etiology of this finding is unclear. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin nor fractures of the underlying skull. These findings are inconclusive for perimortem injury due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in this preliminary report for further investigation. it is important to reiterate that the finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissection were not performed.
Okay. Okay, hold right there. I want to make sure I get the language right. So if you will, let me tab back. I was about to make a comment on this earlier, but let's go.
It is important to reiterate that the finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissection were not performed.
So, if I understand the language right, what he's saying is, although this is the second autopsy, this particular area had not been touched by the primary doctor who did the very first autopsy. So basically, what he's saying is, it is him, Dr. Rogers, the independent doctor, who says he's the one that took the first look at that. Now, how they would have missed it, if there was anything to miss, we'll have to wait on the first report.
He said another limitation faced by this forensic pathologist was the absence of the anterior internal neck structures, the trachea and the laryngeal cartilage, the thyroid horn, and the hyoid bone were not received with the body. So he's saying that.
See, he should have reacted. If he's been doing this a while, he should have reacted to the crowd even becoming a little uncomfortable with that. Instead, he's going to keep reading, but this is not nothing extraordinary here.
The throat was not received with the body when he got Nolan Wells' body in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. And so let's discuss that with what he said about that. He said, it is assumed that the initial pathologist retained these structures for additional evaluation. He said the retention of the anterior neck structures during an initial autopsy is a common forensic pathology practice. He was chief medical examiner for 7 years in Washington, D.C., and he said that if they had concern about throat or any fracture or compression of the throat, they too will hold them back. He doesn't know why they held the throat back, but he said the throat was not with the body of Nolan Wells when he received it in Washington, D.C. to perform the second autopsy. He said, nevertheless, a posterior neck dissection performed without review of the anterior neck structures is incomplete. Therefore, this pathologist cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. He said he would need to have the medical examiner in Mississippi allow him to review the throat. That's why he said his autopsy is undetermined pending investigation. Remember, it's about transparency.
Okay, I get that. I mean, because if he doesn't have that, then he can't come to a determination on that. So that part makes sense. All of it do, really, to me. And I'm not even in this field no more than working at a funeral home. However, yeah, he would. I don't see no other way around it. But again, this is what happens when you run 2, 3, 4, and 5 autopsies on the same person. You just get thinner and thinner and thinner. And you have to rely on whoever did it first. Ugh. And man, for Nolan's mom and dad to be sitting in there listening to these details, oh man, it's almost overwhelming a little bit. Has to be.
Because the initial autopsy rightfully removed and dissected each organ, there are additional limitations inherent in the second autopsy of Nolan Wells. The most significant of the limitations was the inability to directly observe the airway and the lungs for water and directly observe the stomach for gastric contents. He said it is very significant as to what the initial forensic scientists who got to review the body when it was recovered. We have heard from our call center people saying the body wasn't waterlogged. Well, we need to know those things. But unfortunately, because the body was decomposed and the organs have already been dissected, those are things we can only get from the initial autopsy.
That's right.
So therefore, again, the manner and cause of death is undetermined until further investigation. We are hopeful that the Mississippi Medical Examiner would give Dr. Mitchell an opportunity to see their photographs and their observations to the condition of Nolan Wells' body closer in time to July 4th. That is very important, and we have to continue to demand transparency, President Johnson.
I agree to that. I don't have anything, and I'm telling you, I'm definitely not a Ben Crump fan. I put it on my Facebook. Ben Crump wouldn't have been reading nothing for me on my behalf, my findings, my report. If Ben Crump went back to one of my colleges and pulled out an essay and was trying to read it, I'll sue the living hell out that doggone university for giving him my doggone, and I'll sue him for trying to read it.
In addition, the original toxicology results have not been received at the time of this report, and we continue to wait for the toxicology to come back.
And I'm not digging this black talk. What I mean by black talk is when they associate an ADOS person, that's American descendant of slavery, mistakenly called black or blacks, come up with the most strangest behavior out of the blue. I'll give you an example. This whole thing of them trying to, without the toxicology report, a little bit of what Warren said of trying to paint this picture. Nolan got drunk. He went to go try to hit up on the girl. Girl said he was fine. In other words, she wouldn't agree with him being intoxicated. Anyway, he goes back. They tell him, get on, which I do not understand why Warren would have been telling him to get on that boat, because Warren and Nolan, according to Warren now, with the interview he did with Tatum, he and Nolan were on two different boats. Okay? Two different boats.
Because, again, that will be part of the investigation into Nolan Wells' autopsy by Dr. Mitchell. It is significant to note that it's many things that go into toxicology that only Dr. Mitchell will be able to opine upon, and medical experts can opine upon. And he feels the proper place to do that is before a grand jury.
I don't know what word he's trying to say. Expand on. They can expand on it. They can outline it. I don't know which word he's butchering there.
In a courtroom, and so we would hope that the district attorney would present Dr. Mitchell before the grand jury as well. We want all relevant information to be heard by the grand jury. Lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water, lastly, in cases where a death has occurred in or around a body of water with suspicion of drowning, it is important to confirm how that person entered the water.
That's right, because right now they're trying to make it sound like Nolan got drunk and went to swim 10 miles from the island back to Ocean Springs shoreline. That's part of the picture from the opposite or the opposing side is trying to put out there.
This is the crux of the matter. This information is especially important for those deaths of persons who can swim. As in the case with Nolan Wells, at the time of this report, this forensic pathologist does not know the condition of Nolan Wells. He did not know whether he was conscious or unconscious when he entered the water. He said that would be significant. He said he did not know whether he was forced into the water or unforced into the water. He said that would be significant. So he said the condition of Nolan Wells before he entered the water would be the crux of the matter. It would be of utmost importance to being able to determine a cause and manner of death. He said, definitive circumstances of death are required to determine the manner of death. For these reasons, this pathologist cannot rule out, and let me really call your attention to this. For these reasons, this pathologist cannot rule out if any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death of Nolan Wells. Understand, he said based on the examination of the body, he cannot rule out foul play. That is significant. With the following questions still outstanding, number one, what were the circumstances that led to Nolan Xavier Wells entering the water? Number two, what was the body position when it was found? We know that a member of the United Cajun Navy said that he was face down and he was fully clothed. Number three, was there water in the airway? Remember he talked about the lungs and the airways where they fill with water. Number four.
Before we get to number 4, interesting enough, and what should have really been at the very, very, very top of all parties investigating the situation, that should have been something that should have been out way earlier from the first. But then again, well, let me finish my thought. If or if not there was any water, I'm talking about salt water now, from off the Gulf inside of his lungs and / or stomach. They didn't put that in there. I wonder why. Because I could think of one reason. Let me choose my words wisely now. If there was some hanky-panky going on, the fact that we know that there's at least child or stepchild of a judge involved, if their intentions was to get this over with no parties whatsoever under the sun being accused, that would be reason enough not to mention it to the second doctor or the public for that reason or that matter. If the president of Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico, whatever, which one you want to roll with, if or if not any of that fluid or water was on the inside, because if it wasn't, you know what that means, right? That means that boy was gone before he hit the water. If there was water inside of him, it still wouldn't rule out him being pushed in, pushed down, held down. There wouldn't. But yet, they could still say he drowned, and here are the factors: water in the lungs, water in the stomach, water in the nasal cavity, so on and so forth. Some of y'all that's, understand the medical, terms and the autonomy of the body, y'all could jump in at any time.
Is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structure? We got the autopsy without his neck. We got the body without his neck at the time of the second autopsy.
I wouldn't say you got it without his neck. Just say you got it without his throat canal that leads down to the stomach and the lungs.
Number 5, is there any evidence of any intracranial hemorrhage? He said that is going to be very significant. Things that he could not observe at autopsy that the initial medical examiner would have been able to observe. Number 6, was the composition of what was the composition of the stomach contents. He talks about that being important because when was he found? How long had he been in the water? How long had it been since his last meal? All those things become relevant factors when you're trying to do a thorough and impartial autopsy. And number 7, what are the toxicology report findings? He said the best classification again for the cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells is undetermined pending investigation. This forensic pathologist reserves the right to review and incorporate additional forensic pathology information into his opinion as it becomes available. He says the above opinions are expressed to a reasonable degree of medical certainty. Dr. Roger A. Mitchell, July 19, 2026. And we know that, as I said, this is only another part of the puzzle. And even though it tells us significant information, we still have more questions than we have answers at this time. And we will continue to press forward and persist, Tristan and Elmore, with getting the answers to these questions. Because as you, yes, we will persist, because as Christine and Elmore and Attorney Parker and I talked this morning, we know that there are so many conflicting stories. The fact that she said him being found face down, the fact that we have other videos where people who have called said that is Nolan who is in some kind of dispute with others. We're looking at all of these things. The fact that the GPS tracking of the boat is being questioned by many. We're trying to dot every I and cross every T because we understand that when our children's lives are at stake, it matters. Not just what happened, but what we do in the aftermath of them being taken away from us. And just like the NAACP stood up when another tragedy in Mississippi taking the life of young Emmett Till.
I am in so disagreement with the bringing up of Emmett Till's, and you do not want me to go there. Oh, I wish somebody could put me in contact with Emmett Till's cousins who are still going around United States, invited to speaking engagements, seminars. There's an issue there. Nobody wants to talk about it. I will. If it's true that the woman that Emmett Till was accused to have whistled at, if the woman says it never happened, he never whistled at her, my question is, what is Emmett Till's cousins and them talking about then? Huh? But they're going around operating as if he did whistle and that shouldn't have caused his life. The last time I heard from one of them, and I will not lie, it had to be about 8 years ago. But I would love to have a one-on-one with them to get to the bottom of that. Other than that, you're being tricked. And then there are people who sit in high places, know you're being tricked, will sit on it until the right situation comes up. And then you try to use the Emmett Tills as something to be grounded on, to come to find out it's not. You don't have to go back that far. I have a case more current. It's been about 10, maybe 13 years ago. Should have been at the top of the news. I don't even want to say because I don't want nobody to beat me to the point. This has been coming a long time. As a matter of fact, it was supposed to have been, as I was getting my thoughts and ideas together to start a channel, it should have been my opening case of coming into this arena of sociology, knowledge, law, history, genealogy, religion. I've said this once. I'll say it again. I don't believe Tristan Shepard. I don't. I don't have no reason to believe him. If Crump or anybody else heard the altercation clear enough to hear not only the F-bombs, but something concerning a phone, Tristan would have been able to tell you who took his phone, who had it. He said he and his girlfriend was wording, and a bystander got in. Javon said, and here's where I'm a little confused, is Tristan the same person Javon was talking about who said was just bucking to the point to where they got with the adults to get his ass off the island? He was just straight going snap fizzle. He had them popped up and popped out on the island. I don't believe Tristan. My last thing I want to touch on, as I hopefully can see, can I find a quick picture of Brian? Because I need one. Yes, I do. I do need one. Because in my opinion, Brian's trying to play both sides. Why? I think I could come up with some reasons why. I mean, shoot. I do live here in the area. Yeah. Yeah. We already done went over that. Yeah, this guy right here.
Welcome to TMZ Now. I'm Charlie Neff. Question.
All right, TMZ.
Nolan's body.
Yeah, I want to get straight to him.
Cajun Navy. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
Brian, during the press conference today, Ben Crump, who's representing the family of Nolan Wells, said that the United Cajun Navy did not inform the family about the findings when discovering Nolan Wells' body. Why didn't your team communicate to the family about what you saw that day?
Yeah, I just didn't think that it would be helpful to his mom as she was just finding out that her son was dead, that I saw the body. Human curiosity is gonna probably ask me to describe what I saw, and I just think that would have made it worse. Certainly wasn't trying to hide anything from her. And as a matter of fact, I was 400 feet in the air, and there was plenty of law enforcement on the scene, right there with his body.
Wait a minute, Brian. Just wait 1 second now. Hold up. Sir? Sir. Hey, sir. If you want to talk about this over some lunch or something, let me know. We can meet in the middle. We can meet there in Mobile. I'm not scheduled to go to Biloxi until later on this year, but hey, I can speed it up a little bit. Sir, there's a couple of things you said. One, he was face down. Nobody's disputing that. Two, you said the body didn't appear to be waterlogged to you. Three, it was a little shocking to you, but then, in my opinion, you caught yourself. You said anywhere between 2 to 4 days. He popped up on day 2. He popped up in a spot that you had flown over earlier. Okay. Now, you said the body didn't look waterlogged. I will cut you some slack. We don't know what the front part of the body looked like because it would have been face down. So I'm not going to hold you to that. But there was nothing nefarious or dirty about you telling Nolan's mom what you observed from the air, as you're about to describe out right now. You also said that Nolan was fully dressed. Although I don't care for Ben Crump, I did not like the fact that people were jumping on Ben Crump as if he just pulled that out the air, and he didn't. You said that. You said that. You probably didn't mean to, or you probably didn't mean nothing by it, or maybe you just meant that was your way of saying he had on his swimming trunks. Which you did mention. That's what made you come to the conclusion, without the dental, without an identification call from his parents, just the fact that he had on those blue swimming trunks, you assumed it was Nolan. But you, sir, are the one that said he was fully clothed, that sent everybody running in 1,000 different directions off of that.
So anybody could have, could have described what they saw and what they saw up close. Now, later on, I found out that they were not given access to the body and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it could have been helpful if I just told them the little bit that I knew, but I didn't know that at the time.
Ben pointed out that the United Cajun Navy said that he was found fully clothed, and that is critical information that should have been relayed to the family. But you told us that he was in only swim trunks and was not fully clothed. Do you stand by the fact that he was only in swim trunks?
Yeah, he was definitely only in swim trunks. I saw it, and yeah, nobody ever told Mr. Crump, any of his attorneys, or the family otherwise. Nobody ever did tell him anything like that.
Hey, sir, I'ma get on your ass. Sir, there's enough of us out here who has taken this task up. You, oh goodness gracious almighty, I wish you was sitting in front of my face. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back and grab it. And I'm going to figure out a way to clip it and do me a short on that part. You said that. And if you try to lie and say that Ben Crump came out the blue and said that all on his own, I hope Ben Crump sue you. I don't care, because I can't tell whose side you on. You'd have came out better just saying absolutely nothing. Too many people in certain situations be trying to run to the limelight. Then you get trapped in trying to figure out which side you gonna stand on. There ain't no middle. You said you understood why Nolan's mother, based off of the actions that were playing out right in front of your very face. You have radio. You done had conversations with them. For God's sake, you was in the plane. I guarantee you, in private, somebody probably got on your ass and told you, why did you put that part in there about the water log? You should have never said nothing. And I would agree with that person, whether he was or was not. I would agree with them. Because you opened up a door that was closed. You opened that door up. I'm just saying.
He either heard it on an interview or somebody told him they heard it on an interview, and he just...
You said it. Oh, boy, goodness gracious. I'm getting so goddamn heated sitting here. Hey, Brian. Brian, what you doing? Brother, what's going on? I'm calling you brother because you're here on the Gulf Coast. If you know, you know. What you doing? I ain't letting that slide. And I don't even care for Ben Crump like that. But I ain't letting this slide.
Just assume that we told the family that, or I'm speculating, but the bottom line is Nolan was wearing swim trunks when he was recovered, and we never told the family that he was anything, that we never told him anything with regards to his condition when he was found, but we certainly never told them that he was fully clothed, which would have been significant if that was true, but that's not true.
So the interview was taken out of context where that was said, correct?
Very much so.
So you and one other team member were in a plane hovering over Horn Island when Nolan's body was discovered. When you observed...
Ma'am, you didn't do your research. Or the way you worded it just then will have someone walking away thinking again that Ben Crump must have got something mixed up. And he did not. That guy that you're talking to did say, unless he calling me a liar. And look at here, the name of my show. Hold on one second. Hold on one doggone second right here, 'cause I'm getting turned up. The name of this thing is Kaazon's Truth. Now, I bet you Brian ain't bad enough to tell me I'm a liar. I bet you he ain't that bad. Huh? Get on Brian's ass intellectually, knock his noodles out. Intellectually, that is. Want nobody running around here talking about, he down there threatening. I called him a liar. He's a liar. I'm not from the South. I live in the South, but I'm not from the South. I don't give a damn if you black as tar, white as snow, polka dot, zebra stripe, or a damn rainbow. You get no hoops about none of that. If you's a liar, you's a liar. And that's the end of that.
His body being found, did you take any images or document that moment?
So I started taking images of the scene on the ground. There were several law enforcement boats and personnel. And later on, when I looked at the pictures and zoomed in, I noticed that you could actually see the body laying.
Yeah. You said all of that. Hold tight 1 second.
On the shoreline in those pictures. I was not trying to take a picture of the body at the time, but it ended up being captured in the wide angle.
And what exactly do you see in the photos?
I see a body that matches the description of Nolan Wells, laying face down at the shoreline, right at the water's edge. And he was wearing swim trunks and, was, not moving. Obviously, it just looked like he was sleeping on the beach.
Now knowing that the family is looking for any information about his body being discovered that day and washing up on shore, do you plan to hand over these photos and these images to the family or to their team?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's obviously images that I hope that his family never has to see. However, anything, and I'm going to repeat this, anything that Christine and Elmore want from the United Cajun Navy, we will not tell them no. We will give them whatever they want, anytime they want. All they have to do is ask.
So once they ask you, you will then hand over anything that...
Why they gotta ask? Why won't you just do the right thing? You don't have anything to do with law enforcement. I don't think you have any direct or indirect contact with the judge, although I could be wrong. See, people in bigger cities, I know both sides. I'm from a city, Orange, about 3.5 minutes from Newark, New Jersey. I lived in the ATL. That's Atlanta, Georgia. Where I reside at now is not that big, but it's bigger than Troy, Alabama, for an example. It's big enough to have a bus system here, right? Why they gotta ask? Just do the right thing. Put it all in a dossier or a folder. Here you go. This is what we came up on. The fact that you put the emphasis on those boats. Later, you changed your tune on that a little bit. This is why I'm accusing you, Brian, of working in the middle on both sides.
That you do have, and any information that you have from that day.
That's correct.
Yeah, let me put your picture back up there. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because those boats that you said was on the beach when you came back around that wasn't there, the way you worded it, as if it was a mystery to you as much as the listeners who were listening to you. You understand? Huh? You then later go on to say you could see now law enforcement, the cavalry, basically. I wanted to know who was those, because I dismissed it at first. I thought it was a continuation of Nolan's parents. But then it dawned on me that wouldn't have been true. When Nolan's dad got the offer from Nolan's ex-coach, that would have been 5 o'clock Sunday morning. Nolan would have been missing, I'll put it this way, 12 hours later. If I start at 3 p.m., I ain't studying at 4:31. I'll get to that on another video. 3 p.m., 4th of July, 250th birthday of United States. It's Kaazon's Truth real life anniversary. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock in the morning, that's 12 hours later, Coach done seen all this chatter going on Facebook. I'm sure he reached over in his folder and like, man, let me call up. I know, because I'm a retired coach too. Soccer coach, that is. Let me call up. Hey, Elmo, what's going on, man? Man, I can't find my boy. If my son don't come up real soon, they gonna know who I think had something to do with it when heads start getting knocked off. Hey, well, this coach, listen, I know I heard you say you don't have a boat. I don't, man. I don't have no boat, and I don't know nobody got no boat. Coach said, I got a boat. You want to go out there? Elmo said, hell yeah. Yeah. Coach said, I tell you what then, doggone it, by goodness gracious almighty, I tell you what, at the first light of day, now I know something about that. Well, how you know? Kaazon, because I get up at 3 a.m. every morning. You can start seeing a little bitty light at 5, and it gets brighter and brighter in between 5 and 6. So if he picked up Dad by 5 and they were heading out there, by the time he got boat in the water, it was light enough for him to see. That's Sunday morning. Sunday morning.
For people criticizing your team for divulging your observations in interviews rather than directly talking to the family.
I know they did. That ain't all neither. I'm willing to put all my equipment on. Somebody got on Brian's ass. Just like they got on the sheriff for saying no foul play, even though it was very early off. That side got on Brian's ass for talking about that body wasn't waterlogged, because that suggested that somebody kind of came out and tossed him out there, more or less than him being pushed, dragged, drowned, did drown, and washed up on the beach. Simple.
You say what?
I mean, again, you have to understand that it's 2 weeks ago when he was found. At that time, we weren't talking to anybody about what we saw. Enough times passed. The family now has possession of the body. They already had a funeral being planned, all that. And so when I started getting asked questions about what I saw when I was flying that mission, I just answered the question. It didn't come from a place of trying to hide anything from anybody, but also too, enough time had passed where I thought it would have been really inappropriate to mention it, in those early days. But when I finally did talk about it, I felt like enough time had passed, and so I just was answering questions as honestly and thoroughly as I could.
Since the press conference today, have you spoken to Ben Crump or the family at all, or have they reached out to you?
I haven't personally. Nobody's reached out to me. I did instruct my incident commander, Josh Gill, who's been in touch with Christine.
Josh Gill, that's my man right there. Now, somebody might look at Josh Gill and be like, oh, no, I don't know that. He look like, Josh Gill got about business. I'm talking about finished up there, got them on there, headed straight to Texas to go looking and saving lives over there. Go on ahead, Josh Gill.
Almost every day since day one, since we first got involved, to reach out to her and let her know that we saw the press conference. We saw that there might have been a request for us to provide information or talk to their attorneys, whatever, and just to let her know that whatever they need, we will provide.
So during the presser today, Ben Crump had mentioned that there was possibly some trauma on the back of Nolan Wells' head, and you had mentioned that the body was face down in the sand, washed up on shore when you observed that. Were you surprised to hear about those findings?
Not really, because they weren't very specific in the press conference. I don't know if the report itself was more specific with regards to subcutaneous soft tissue, like redness around the occipital portion of the back of his head. That could be caused by many things. Now, it's important to disclaim that I am not a medical professional. I did not even get good grades in science, but
Nancy Grace got on your ass the other day. And I'm still on your ass about saying that boy was fully clothed. When you said it, sir, I spent all the way around. That was new on me. I knew you had said previous to that moment, you observed him and it looked like you felt like it was him according to the description of the swimming shorts he had on. Speaking of the swimming shorts, I've heard some AI reports. I haven't heard Christina, Elmo, Ben, Al. I haven't heard any of them put in the mix of the mix up in between what color shorts he had on. It seems like the first report went out, and that must be the you know what? Before I step into that, see right here on open camera, that done got me to thinking a little bit. I need to hear the first call that went to the Coast Guard, not that towing company. The towing company, the boat that was alleged to have been sinking with electrical problems and all of that, that comes relevant a little bit later on, if relevant, because if that's the boat that Warren is saying he was on, Nolan's ride was still there. You get what I'm saying? You have to go look at, even though I don't care for that Tatum dude, Brandon Tatum, I'd be damned if I'm gonna call him officer. You have no idea how much power be in words. He ain't no damn officer. And he ain't been voted, and he ain't running no office to be an officer. That being said, Warren tells him that Nolan was on the Skipper, a whole nother boat. If it's Warren's boat or the one Warren was on, although it made some jiggy moves, that may be a distraction. Because if Nolan was told by his father, you go and come back, I'm assuming now with the crew, the boat, the car, whatever, wherever you roll with going over, you ride with coming back. Therefore, that particular boat, my honest opinion on that is, I don't know. There's been no mentioning of it. Don't nobody break this stuff down as thorough as I do. Huh? Nolan was not on Warren's boat when they left. There should be video evidence of that from the top balcony of the house where the boats were in the water. It was 3 of them, and it was a group of them. What came of the boat that Nolan originally rode out there on? That hasn't been answered. Which would then make this picture irrelevant. This picture is hereby irrelevant if I take Warren at his word. Where are the rest of these people at? What time did y'all decide y'all better lawyer up and close out your accounts? Brandon didn't ask. I'm asking.
But I have seen a lot of dead bodies in my life, and all I can tell you with regards to what they talked about at the press conference is inconclusive to me because not enough information was given. If that turns out to be some kind of blunt force trauma, that would indicate to me that one of the theories is that he might have been out far in the water, got hit by a boat, and got knocked out and drowned, which is a possibility. The reason why I never thought it was probable, because something like that happened and then nobody knowing about it, nobody noticing, nobody in the boat, nobody else in the water noticing it. I think that those chances are pretty low. But with regards to the findings, they were, I mean, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but they were extremely vague.
Any other takeaway from the press conference? I know that you and your team watched it.
You know, look, I know what Mr. Crump and Mr. Sharpton do for a living and how they earn their living. And, how any man chooses to make his living is his business. What I don't like or don't want to see is Nolan's parents get criticized just because of the company they're keeping. Christine has said on many occasions that she wants answers and she needs help. And no matter what you think of Mr. Crump and his team, they are offering Nolan's parents more resources than they'd ever be able to get on their own. And so the fact that she's accepting that help, I have no criticism of whatsoever. But I just want everybody to know that these are two hardworking, first-class people, talking about Christine and Elmore, who are going through an unimaginable tragedy. So maybe, hold off on your criticism of them just because of who they've decided to let represent them.
Well,
I wish somebody would come rolling through here. And I don't even care for Ben Crump or Al Sharpton. Ben Crump is a little bit more personal because of his dealing with somebody else I really know personally and what happened to their son. And because their son lived, Ben Crump act like he ain't had no to him on that. And I ain't like that. Made me quickly say to myself, well, wait a minute. You telling me Adolf has to be dead for you to get involved? I guess. If the people say that that's how they go, then I guess I'm going to have to rock with what the people say. I'm not buying it myself, but hey. All right, last I'm going to try to get up out of here with. Give me 1 second here. Nope, that's not what I want. Hold on one. Give me once. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, that's not it. Bingo. Okay. Give me a second here. Hey, Brian. Hey, before I get gone too far. Nope, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. Hold on 1 second. Hey, Brian, before I get gone too far. Hey, sir. You're the one that said he was fully clothed.
That's me.
No, are you?
That does not mean that foul play may not.
To say the least, there's a lot to get into. So without further ado, here we go. Get your ears perked up. Get your thought process circulating and percolating. It's time to get into it right now. My first guest is a civil rights attorney, a former federal prosecutor, and an MS Now legal analyst. He writes the What Matters Now newsletter on Beehive, and you can catch him on his podcast, The Brothers Briefing. He is joined by a former Arizona police officer turned conservative YouTube political commentator and host of the Officer Tatum podcast. Please welcome to the show, Charles F. Coleman Jr. and, of course, Officer Brandon Tatum. Good afternoon, fellas. How y'all doing? How's everything?
Blessed.
I'm doing well, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Charles Coleman Jr., let's start off with you. What can you tell us? The Nolan Wells case has been in the news for nearly 3 weeks now. For those who may not be aware of the case or have not kept up with the facts, just to recap, he was an 18-year-old college football player from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. On July 4th, he and a group of friends traveled by private boat to Horn Island, an uninhabited barrier island off the Mississippi coast. Wells was the only black person on the boat. Wells was last seen on the island around 3 p.m. His friends returned to the mainland without him. And as a result, ultimately, a couple of days later, he was found dead. Charles Coleman Jr., at this particular juncture, what's on your mind in terms of this case? What's missing? What are your thoughts?
Well, Stephen A., we just saw the family release their independent autopsy results yesterday, which were conducted by Dr. Roger Mitchell, who is the president of the National Medical Association. And those results were inconclusive. They were able to establish that Nolan Wells did not die by accident, that he did not die of natural causes, but at the same time that they were not able to establish that this was a homicide. In fact, those results established that it was not a homicide. Now, one important caveat to note is that the chief medical officer from the state of Mississippi, the sheriff's office, removed the throat from Nolan Wells's autopsy when their autopsy was conducted first. We have not heard the results of the state's autopsy, but we know that when Roger Mitchell examined the body for the family, that the throat and other organs have been removed. So that your listeners understand, that's not abnormal. That is something that takes place normally during the case of an investigation and of an autopsy. So there's nothing that was wrong there. But at this point, Dr. Roger Mitchell, who did the independent autopsy from the family, has not been able to confirm any sense of foul play as of yet. That was undecided or undecisive. That does not mean that foul play may not have occurred. It just means that the autopsy that was conducted by the family did not show that conclusively. He saw some trauma to, some potential trauma to Nolan Wells's head. That was not something that he was able to explain as being the result of foul play. And we have yet to hear the state's autopsy and what they found or what their findings were. You may recall, and listeners may recall, that initially the sheriff's office said that they had no reason to suspect that foul play was afoot. And what I would say that this autopsy confirms from the family is that while that cannot be certainly confirmed, it still can't be ruled out. So finally, there are 60 witnesses that have been interviewed in the course of this investigation by the sheriff's office. There's likely going to be a presentation to the grand jury, and we don't know what the toxicology report will show from Nolan Wells because much of that is in the hands of the state. But as of right now, this is where things stand. And as a former prosecutor, I want to know what the state's autopsy is going to say and what are the witness accounts that they are going to put forward in the grand jury.
Officer Tatum, you personally interviewed, you traveled to Mississippi, from my understanding, to personally interview one of the young men who left the island without Nolan. Why should the public trust whatever account is coming from them right now, in your estimation, based on what you've learned? First things first, I shouldn't say that. First things first, what did you deduce from the conversation you had from one of the friends that was with Nolan Wells? What did you take away from that you'd like the public to know?
Well, Stephen A., I want to make sure this is clear. I actually spoke to all the boys that were being accused. I spoke to family members. I spoke to also their attorneys. It's just that the one young man had the, I wouldn't say courage, because others had reasons why they didn't want to come on the camera, but he was able to come on the camera, and I interviewed him. And I also interviewed another young man who was black, who was there, who had his own personal accounts of what happened. I'm not asking people to believe or not believe. I just wanted to give people the information. So nobody had heard from the young boys. Nobody had heard their accounts. And a lot of misinformation was put out there, some intentionally, some maybe not intentionally, but they were...
Sir, a number of them lawyered up, retained counsel, shut down all media. One of their mothers, who I had earlier on the screen, the judge, came out, not one, but made two statements. Left out the fact how many more times that boat moved, although I will agree what she was taking in, or let me say, I'll assume, she could have been on the boat. I don't think so, but then again, I don't know. She says she wasn't. Okay. She gave an account, which was hearsay, from what her son/stepson said. Let's get that part straight first.
It was very detrimental and not conducive for the investigation into Nolan Wells' death. It was punitive. They came out and started with race. It had to be something nefarious because these boys are white. for any other reason. So I wanted to go out and hear the full story. And
Boy. Wait, oh, I might have moved it. See, the Negrophobia that he suffers from don't bother me. I'm not an ex-cop. I'm not an ex-district attorney. I was ROTC drill team commander with the Rifles. I was a head coach of a soccer team. I worked several years at a funeral home. My major was history with a primary interest of adults. Those Americans like me who are the descendants of those people who was under the institution of slavery. Not black, not colored, not African American. Continent. Black is an adjective. Minority is a baby. A goo goo gaga. Don't argue with me. Get you a law dictionary and look it up. Don't argue with me. Don't argue with me. You come out better.
And what I deduced from the interview and talking to everybody is that these young boys had nothing to do with what ended up happening to Nolan Wells. And also they were best friends. I mean, these kids had so many
as if they would have told you different. I'm just saying now.
Pictures, so many text messages of them being closer to Nolan than any other friend group. And also one thing that shocked me was that this was an island, not secluded, not an island with 5 or 6 people on it. It was an island where there was thousands of people there.
Sir, see Tatum, this is what I'm talking about right here. And this is perfect. What did my disclaimer say? On line number 2, it says, shown for commentary, criticism. We finna operate up under the education right now. You understand? We finna operate up under the education. All of this material belonged to its prospective owners.
Hundreds of boats.
Nobody ever said at any time there was only 4 or 5 or 6. We know and understand, and I do more than maybe some. I even heard you say, Officer Tatum. I slipped up. That's only because I looked on the screen and that's what it had. Tatum, you had to fly down. I don't have to fly down. I could just jump out here on I-10, slide west. Be in Ocean Springs. I've spent many nights in Ocean Springs. I've ate in Ocean Springs. I've been to numerous bowling tournaments in Ocean Springs. I frequent Biloxi all the time. And I'm not even a gambler. I kind of like the strawberry daiquiris they have there at the Hard Rock myself, and I, and whatnot. Give me a hot $20 bill, maybe 25, and I'll sit there and play the penny, nickels, or something like that till I'm good and tea satisfied. You understand? I know the area. I live on the Gulf. I know Ship Island, Dolphin Island, Horn Island. I know they all out there together. We do the same thing over here, except we spread out. I normally 2012, 13, 14, and 15. I brung in the 4th of July right there on the fishing bridge. bring my car out on the third. I mean, well, not my car, my truck. Bring my SUV out on the third so I could get the number one parking spot at the back of the bridge. Ice everything down, my bait, sandwiches, water, Gatorade, everything. Be in the truck. Locked up. And then on the 4th of July, right shortly after my happy anniversary, baby. And she says, happy anniversary, baby. Baby, I think this year I'm going to put my foot down on you. It's a little inside joke her and I always have. We normally follow the same routine as an old coach from Auburn. For some reason, we hit the Waffle House. Kids are older, they be making their own plans. At the end of the evening, not home, my wife and I are going to wind up pretty much at the same spot. Or we used to. Oh, yeah, we still married. The other couple not. You understand? Nobody never said at any given time, you little sapsucker, you, that there was only just them people out there on this deserted island. What you think we doing here? You think this Gilligan Island? Boy, stop playing. You play too much. And I don't even know you like that. And I'm willing to bet you are. You know what? I'm going to leave that alone. Where that play button at?
And also, a lot of people could verify the statements that was made from some of these young men. So I really wish that we could have started at a point to say, what happened to Nolan Wells? Let's work together.
Hold up. Hold the hell up. He got to be talking to y'all. He ain't talking to me. He ain't nowhere in the world he talking to me. No, sirree, Bob. Let me show you how I know he ain't talking to me. Is that not been the damn question the whole time? Now, Nolan dad trying not to That is the question, Tatum.
As a community, let's talk to these young men, talk to other people, and let's find out what happened to Nolan instead of...
You couldn't. You little sapsucker, you. They lawyered up. What you're suggesting, especially Ben Crump, you can't just go up and just start talking to someone and they done, what's the word, retained an attorney or attorneys. One of them, I don't know what you think a judge is. A judge is an attorney. A judge, if paying attention, by themselves could rigmarole this whole thing if one chose to. No, they not. If they done had cases practiced in front of them, they understand cell phone towers and data. They understand when, where, probably what you can use or what people has tried to use to remove blood. Access to people. Oh my goodness. I'm sure they could get in contact with someone on a moment's notice. I know they can, because I do. We all do. You know, those of us that fish in the Gulf. And I myself, I don't want to just sit here and go through this good enough. Huh? That's the Gulf right behind me. That's the Gulf. That big Gulf. Two names. Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico. They could just call it Mexico.
Jump in the race.
Officer Tatum, how do you know that it was misinformation that was put out there? How did you come to the conclusion that something was misinformation? Explain that.
Well,
Is it just
I knew it
according to their account or something else?
No. Initially, I knew it was hogwash because when Al Sharpton and them got on TV, they automatically made an inference to say, well, it was something that had to happen because these kids were white. It was one white kids with one black boy. I mean,
that's just the fact. Unless you can show me another Adolf that was on those three boats, he would have been. We know by now, Javon said he ran into him out there. Javon was clicked up with somebody else. I'd love to have a conversation with him too. Mom, shake them cameras off. Meet me in Mobile. Let's have a conversation with Javon.
There's no evidence to project that unless you believe every white person is.
And Javon's mom is in this. Because they trying to make it sound like in one breath, they took the phone. I just got on to somebody earlier. Like they willfully took the phone. No. Christina had her friend girl, which is Javon's mom. And I like the way you put that little twist in there. So I don't have any testimony where Javon, listen at this bullshit now. Listen at this bull. Hold on 1 second. Let's have it.
Nefarious in their dealings with black people. And so I thought that was suspicious on his face. And then they said that Nolan was the only black kid. He was not the only black kid. Many of his black friends were also at the island with him.
We already know that. We know Javon was out there. Not many. Even from the video glimpse of what they allege is or may not be Nolan up there arguing. How many you saw, Tatum?
So, some of those things that started to come out, I knew that they were not being truthful.
And what gave you the audacity to make you feel like you, sir, need to come speak up for them? Huh? What you been promised?
About what happened.
Charles, your thoughts, your response to what Officer Tatum just said.
I don't necessarily know that the initial statements about Nolan being with some of his white friends is entirely afactual. I also don't know that it is a nefarious statement in as much as these are facts. He was with a number of different white boys.
Which is different. That's a fact. Tatum.
Or a number of different boys who are white. I think that the problem with what Officer Tatum has just pointed out is that there is an underpinning of race when you're having a conversation about the types of things that happen and have happened to black boys and black people in Mississippi, such that it cannot be summarily dismissed. I did not necessarily jump to any conclusion, but the history of what race relations have been in Mississippi and how we have not necessarily been safe has caused me to take a special look at this case. It doesn't mean that I'm accusing anyone of anything. It doesn't mean that I do not believe in finding the process. But at the same time, I am not going to ignore the facts, which you just pointed out. These are facts. He may have been with other black people, but we have seen the pictures, we have seen the photos. There were a number of people who were gathered out there for the July 4th holiday, but Nolan Wells was with three boys who happened to be white. Those are facts.
He was with, but the thing is that it's facts without context. He was with more than just 3 white boys. That's the problem. There was over 20, 30 kids that got on 3 boats, and they all went to the island together. They didn't just travel with Nolan and just these 3 boys. Many of the boys that they're accusing, including Warren, wasn't even on the boat with Nolan when Nolan went out to the island. So some of those things were mischaracterizations of what actually happened. And the thing is that I don't.
So why he talking? I tell you what Warren can do. God doggone it. Bump all this soft shit. What Warren can tell us is who was the captain of the boat that Nolan originally rode out there with? Where was that boat when Warren was having his boat towed in? That's all. That's a start.
Think it's fair to say, because history has shown in part that white people or black people have had injustices, that all of a sudden you project that into a new situation. Black people have done nefarious things to other black people. Does that mean that you automatically jump to saying, oh, black people must be wrong in this situation? You know, because
that don't even make any sense. You thought you said something deep. And maybe the one of them, man, look, you thought you said something deep. You ain't say nothing deep then, bruh. See, luckily, if I wasn't a historian, I would be at the ceiling. But because I'm a historian with a primary interest, I don't do black history because I don't know what people are black. And I don't know no country called black or a state called black or a continent called black. I've only seen one black flag, and it's on that roach spray. What a God. That's it. Other than that, I don't know what you're talking about. Black is an adjective that modifies and slash or describes a noun. Are we clear? It also places you under the Christian black code, where you have your own set of rules of how to deal with such people who insist on being black.
he had his black friends there too, and why nobody's questioning them? Why nobody's saying, why didn't the black friends rest?
Javon did talk. He said he ran into Nolan. They didn't have no room on the 3 boats. At least that's what Javon was told. Plus, Javon's a little younger than them. Right? Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, okay.
What did the black kids know about Nolan? And many of them said that they saw him last when the white boys had left at 4:30. So I just think that the race should never be interjected. Nolan's friends told me, and they proved to me that they were really close to him and they were some of his best friends. They said Nolan would have been incredibly upset at the way people are framing his death and going after his friends with no evidence.
We're only hot on their ass because don't nobody know nothing. The hell? At your count, you said thousands. Sir, again, I live on the Gulf Coast. You're not going to be out there flopping around drowning and nobody sees you. Are we clear?
Well,
Well,
here's the
Officer
thing.
Tatum, hold on, Charles. Hold on, Charles. I would say this to you, Officer Tatum. I get where you're coming from. And by the way, I appreciate the context and I appreciate the reporting on your part because numerous reports that I had read was talking about how he was the only black kid there. He was a black kid with a few white boys. And you articulating that fact is very, very important. I think that's important and fair to point out. But what do you say to folks that will ask this kind of a question? He's on a boat. He's on an island. And according to numerous reports, he talked about staying behind and traveling back with a different set of company. Yet his car keys and his phone was left on a boat that he had traveled to those guys with. So what teenager do you know is saying he's staying someplace, but he's going to leave his car keys and his phone on the boat with the guys that he arrived at the island with? That does seem a bit suspicious, particularly when the guy's mother, Nolan Wells' mother, had to use some app to locate the phone, and it was something that wasn't given back. These are reports. I'm not pretending to know, Officer Tatum. These are what the report said. What do you say to that?
And this is where I feel like Benjamin Crump and them should be sued for them putting out this information without.
Your ass should be sued with your leading question ass. I'd have ate that boy up on the cross-examination. You hear me? I'd have ate that boy up and you to go along with him. When I was done, I damn near would have had you on the boat fooling around with me, boy. Who you think you playing with?
Facts. Let me point the facts out. Without context, it sounds bizarre. But when you put it in the context that a lot of people left their phones on the boat that left. Many kids came to get their phone after they left the lake. Nolan was with.
What lake? Boy, if you don't take your ass back up north, and I can say that because I'm from up north, take your ass back up wherever you caught that plane from. Get you, your camera crew, get your asses back on that thing and carry your ass back up north. Because ain't no damn lake out there in the Gulf. It's the Gulf with an island or a couple of islands. Dolphin Island, Ship Island, Horn Island. There's another one over there in Louisiana. I can't remember the name of it right now. Only time I go that far through Louisiana if I'm headed out to Austin, Texas. The keys, that's not that significant. I can see him leaving his keys at the house, wherever his car was at. If it was where they loaded on the boat or not, I can see his keys being back at the crib of the last place he was at with his car. I get that. So I'm a rock with you on that before you even get there. But that phone
with a girl. It's not shocking that Nolan would have said, hey, man, you guys had to leave because they had to leave in an emergency situation. It wasn't like they had time to prep and everything. The boat was sinking, so they had to go. And they told Nolan, get on the boat, get on the effing boat, man, let's go. And he like, no, I'm finna hang out with this girl. I saw evidence of that, and others who had sent messages that I read that said that they asked Nolan to go and he didn't want to go. Now, a lot of people left their phones on the boats because they're sitting in chest deep water and it's a bunch of people out there. The reception is not very good. So most people did not have their phone with them. Now, the phone and the keys situation, people need to understand the context. Nolan never brought his keys with him because they were on a boat driving 7 miles out to an island. His keys had always been at the.
It's more than 7 miles. It's 10 miles. Take your ass back up north. You got us fooling around with a lake. And it's not a lake. It's not 7 miles. Because, see, when you start talking like that, you give me the notion that you're trying to ease into that crowd that's trying to make it look and sound like Nolan got drunk and decided to swim back to the mainland. Yeah, and he drowned. Get out of here.
The residence where his car was. So when the guys go back, they text Nolan's mother. This is
y'all are by that. But you won't buy that Carmelo Anthony really felt like he was being pressed, surrounded, shit being talked, and hands being touched. Meaning somebody left out of their box, turned the knob, and opened up the door to Carmelo's box, came in his box, closed the door, and assaulted him. Yeah, like that part went right over their head. After he told them, don't put your mother hands on me. Don't do it.
This is where it ticks me off. They showed me a phone call where immediately the first phone call that was made concerning Nolan was Warren called Nolan's mom, and she hung up the phone on him the first time because she didn't know who he was. The second call, he told her, hey, Nolan haven't come back. Do you know? Have you heard from him? And then they called the Coast Guard. So his mother was very...
Who called the Coast Guard? I want a copy of that call. I've been wanting a copy of that call. I'm glad I have it on record on a previous video. I want that call. I want it. I want that call.
Much aware that they had Nolan's...
Y'all give me a second. I'm listening. I'm finna swing my rubber neck around and see if my neighbor trying to get the jump on me on the yard cut. Huh? You're not gonna catch me lacking. No, catch me lacking.
Phone. His mother did not have to track the phone through Life 360. His mother didn't come get the phone. Another parent of a black kid who was out there with Nolan came to get her son's phone and Nolan's phone. So why didn't Al Sharpton or any of them ask these boys what happened, have them show evidence?
You can ask Nolan's mom what she did. Her story ain't changed. You calling Nolan's mother a liar? Huh? You saying Nolan's mom is lying. What would be her reasoning for lying? She's within the first 48 for sure, but the first 12 hours. Who called that Coast Guard? And can we get a copy? Can somebody do it? You know what? I might have to ride over to Ocean Springs and just do it my damn self. Put in a public request for that call for service. A call to service or for service to the United States Coast Guard. Man.
And then present it to the public. And it's because I think they wanted the race bait instead of trying to find out what happened to Nolan.
Do you know hold on, Charles. Do you know whether or not Al Sharpton and those guys had asked to talk to the kids and the kids refused to talk to them? Do you know it?
That's a good question, Stephen. Now let's see what Tatum's gonna answer. I already gave you the answer. They couldn't go talk to him. They had done lawyered up. And any communication at that time would have been through their lawyer, not them.
No, they told me they told me that they haven't heard anything from Al Sharpton or anybody that tried to contact them. This is what they told me. Now, They showed me messages where parents had communicated and reached out to Benjamin Crump, his team, and said, we would love to communicate with you guys. Any questions you have, we want to talk to you guys so you can get the context. Also, they messaged Nolan's mother multiple times about communicating and saying, hey, if you need anything, if you want to talk, we can give you the context of what happened.
That's not what the judge said online. You see how hey boy, sad boy, you see what happens? See, I find plenty of you in the 1800s. I find even more y'all after 1865. I went into the Library of Congress, came across a letter where the two brothers used to be fighting to rub the European woman, Massa's wife, feet. Two brothers now, mom in the kitchen cooking for her. The boys in there fighting over which one of them was going to have the golden opportunity to rub her feet. Let me let you wrap your head around that. I know your type, son. Everybody not qualified to deal with your type. I could deal with you, though. You understand? With your mouth all open. Close your mouth.
Happened, and nobody reached out to these boys. And I saw evidence of this, which is what frustrated me about this in the first place.
Why? Why? Why so much frustration for them? You don't have anything to do with Mississippi. You're not related to Nolan. You're not related to any of them. Why? Why so much frustration? Huh? You don't like the fact that Adolph's people were questioning them, was watching they moves. You still haven't addressed why they lowered up so fast. Why did they close down their accounts? Why didn't they attend the funeral? And don't give me that bullshit about, those scared. Please, all that police present, cameras, TV, news crews. I'm about to get frustrated. I'm about to get frustrated now.
Charles, floor is yours.
So here's the thing, Officer Tatum, we're not going to litigate the facts on here from one side of someone who's had an opportunity to talk to a sample size of people who were involved in this investigation. You and I know just as well that the real issue here is that the people who conducted the investigation, i.e. the Mississippi Sheriff's Department, who've talked to over 60 witnesses in this case, have not yet presented that case or their findings to a grand jury, and they've been extremely tight-lipped with respect to what they have found and what it is that they know. Where I'm going with this is, regardless of who you may have spoke to, who Benjamin Crump and Al Sharpton may have spoken to, what information they have had, we are all trying to piece this together. And so it is equally as unfair to present a certain set of facts as if this is the final context of things, when in reality, we don't know. What I will say about the overall situation is that for me, as a civil rights attorney, I am looking at this and I am saying that there needs to be a greater sense of transparency from the Sheriff's Department, because they are the ones who have spoken to most of the parties who have been involved in this case. They've conducted over 60 witness interviews. They've done the toxicology report. They have the autopsy. So these are the people who are truly equipped from an information place to give the public the most accurate picture. So I am not calling what you're putting out misinformation, but what I am saying is that that is just an equally biased and slanted point of view in the opposite way, because it lacks the full context. So because of that, let me finish. It's disingenuous intellectually, number one, to dismiss the notion of race, because that is choosing to ignore the history in America that we have faced. Number two, it's equally disingenuous to play a whataboutism to try and substitute the notion of black on black crime, which is a complete misnomer as to why we should not focus, or at least note.
You know what? I'm not going to say that. Charles, you should know. These type of Adolph's people have an agenda. Those type of people become very uncomfortable when they look in the mirror and see that image flashing back on them. I don't know this man. I guarantee you I'm willing to bet, which I don't normally do, he not married to no sister. I bet you that. I know this type. You find them a lot. They scattered all through the South. Y'all be wondering why we can't come together. I'm telling you. Some of our own. Or do you in first?
Don't even say focus. At least note the color issues that are at play with respect to what could or might have happened to Nolan Wells. Again, not necessarily being accusatory. And it's just as disingenuous for you to go further and say, well, we must assume, or it seems like Crump and Sharpton and everyone else was projecting the notion of race. That may have been your interpretation, which I cannot necessarily argue with. But it is just as problematic for you to suggest the polar opposite of that when none of us have conducted this full investigation. You have a limited sample size. I have a limited sample size. The public has been wrought with misinformation. So for me, the real issue here is a lack of transparency from the sheriff's office to give the public a complete picture.
Well, let me tell you where I disagree with you fully. As a former police officer, and I was a PIO, I dealt with all of these things. The police department is not an injustice when you say there's a lack of communication or transparency. The police department cannot put this information out there when you still have suspects at large. If they go and release some of this information and show their hands of what they know and don't know, then potential suspects will begin to destroy evidence. They'll start hiding. They'll start cleaning stuff. You don't want to give that information out to the public until you know for a fact that you've been able to communicate with every suspect that's out there. If you start putting out the autopsy prematurely, and it shows blunt force to the head, strangulation to the neck, then the people who have done this are going to make sure they hide the murder weapon. They're going to make sure they get their stories together and say, no, I didn't hit him in the back of the head. You don't want to project those things too prematurely. So there's no issue with transparency. And I'll say this: the reason that I'm talking about Al Sharpton and them is because the first thing that they said was that he was there with white boys. Therefore, there had to have been something. And then it goes back.
That's a fact, though. Tatum, you are free to rock with whoever you want to rock with. If you want to rock against Nolan and his mom and them, and you want to side with the other people in the picture, / others, you can do that. Just know you better stay within your box on that conversation, though, because there are literally some communication intellectual assassins out here. Intellectually body bag you, son.
Historically, some of them compared this to the young man.
I've heard very different messages from them when they have said, we cannot assume that this is racist. But we cannot assume that it wasn't. So I'm going to correct you there.
That's what Al Sharpton said that. In Rush to Judgment, they wanted Al not to put emphasis on it being something racist. Al Sharpton caught it. Boom. He said, okay, I will. On the flip side of that coin, I beg of y'all not to say that it didn't have something to do with racism. That's what he said.
Let me jump in here.
Who's that, Charles? Hold on. Charles, who said that? Who said that?
Literally during his eulogy, Al Sharpton
Okay.
said
Al
we
Sharpton.
But
cannot
let
assume
me
that this was racist, and he
let me
said
let
we
me
can
interject.
also not assume that it wasn't.
Let
So
me
Take your
I
time.
got
I gotta
Take
correct
your
you
time.
there.
Hold on, guys. Take your time. Ain't nothing getting edited out. Don't worry about it. Trust me. All of it is. I'm not editing a damn thing. Go ahead, Officer Tatum. The floor is yours.
Well, let me interject. When you are looking for justice for your child in a criminal case, meaning that somebody committed a crime against your child, why do you?
We don't know. Damn. Goodness gracious almighty. Man, I wish you was one of those going back to Africa group. I really wish you would. Because I'll see, can I help you out with that? You're not too good at this.
You go out and get a civil rights attorney. These Benjamin Crump and them are known for going after these cases specifically in injustices against black people.
Let me
Officer
answer
Tatum,
that.
let me try it first.
I want to answer that too as soon as y'all get done. Let's get back to this.
Let me.
Okay,
Go
go
ahead.
Stephen.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair, Charles. Go ahead.
I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a civil rights attorney. Please understand how these things work. At the end of the day, when you're talking about quote unquote justice, the first reason why you get someone like Benjamin Crump is because he's a person who has experience with wrongful death lawsuits.
Black people.
So it's not about black people. No,
It is. Benjamin don't represent white people.
Please talk about that is completely false. That is
Show me
completely
when was the
false.
last case he represented
I'm not
where he
here to do
supported
your,
white people?
I'm not here to do your research.
Hey, I'll fit to say, I guarantee you, I could go down in my history, find a European dude. I don't even know if I should put this out here. I'm going to put it this way. Ben Crump helped him got some straightening from a very, very, very big name. Everybody got a pair somewhere in their house, somewhere in their trailer, somewhere in their crib. You, Tatum, you're wrong again. You's a liar. You're not too good at this. I see now why you're ranked up a little bit. I get it. I see what's going on. Know this. If and when that day comes and they on your ass, don't you come back to the community now. Don't you come to Adolph's. Go find the black. The awkward blacks. They'll help you.
For you.
No, you the one saying it. I'm telling you it didn't happen.
But Benjamin Crump has a long-standing career of supporting people of all races and ethnicities when it comes to the violation of their civil rights.
Give me one.
As well as personal injury. So please let me answer your question.
Go ahead.
The reason why you get a civil rights attorney is because, number one, Benjamin Crump has extensive experience when it comes to wrongful death suits. Number two, in this situation, it is possible that there may be an element that Nolan Wells' civil rights were violated and that something may have happened to him because of his color, which is why you get a civil rights attorney. And so that is the answer to your question.
It's about color.
As a former prosecutor, you let the police and the sheriff's office deal with the notion of criminality because that is one thing that Benjamin Crump can't do anything about.
Well, let's say this, brother. Can I jump in here?
That's why you go get someone like Benjamin Crump.
Why wouldn't the kids get civil rights? Like, for instance, people were saying, why did these kids lawyer up? Well, first of all, many of them didn't even have a lawyer. They went and talked to investigators and did a lie detector test equivalent with no lawyers. Okay, so but anyway, would you think it would be weird if these kids went out and got a civil rights attorney?
Why would they have a civil rights attorney? They're not being accused of anything.
They are being accused. They are being accused.
Who's accused them? Who has accused them?
Al Sharpton. Benjamin Crump.
Show me where Al Sharpton has accused them of something.
All right, they said this.
Charles, he not too Hey, Charles, don't let that man run your blood pressure up. That boy ain't too good at this. He know it too. We know our own. You can hear it in his voice. He's shook, unprepared, throwing things out there that don't have no truth to him. And then he feeling all chummy chum because he done had a conversation with a guy who was on a different boat, who went to Horn Island, whose boat was broke. He went back to land. It would be fair to say, as it stands at this moment, if that's his evidence, I see why he out here talking. He ain't talking about nothing. He don't know nothing. He just feeling some type of way. That all.
This is what they said.
Suspicious.
This is what they said. No. They said they put these boys' pictures out on the internet and said he went out, and they framed it as he went out just with them, and something happened, and we know something happened, and why they hiding phones and doing all this? He's accusing them before any evidence is presented.
That's not an accusation. That is an
accusation.
But
Charles,
it is a statement of suspicion. That is not an accusation.
Why is it
Charles,
suspicious?
hold
they're
on.
white.
Charles, let me chime in here. A statement of suspicion, some people would say, is an accusation. I understand from the legal, literal sense what you're saying. But talking amongst ourselves right now, when you say a statement of suspicion is not an accusation, that's not how people interpret a statement of suspicion. When you make a statement of suspicion, you're making an accusation. I mean, can we at least concede that, Charles?
What I will say in response to that, Stephen A., is to whatever extent there may have been statements of suspicion that were interpreted in that manner given early on, I think the record has been clear leading up to and during Nolan Wells' funeral that A, we don't know what happened, B, we won't rule anything out, and C, with respect to ruling anything out or not ruling anything out, we are not saying that this absolutely happened, but we are not saying that we are resting until we get answers.
Can I show you where this becomes biased?
Officer Taylor, let me come at you with this. What's wrong? There's a kid now. Okay, granted, you did your homework. You went out there and you actually talked to several of his friends. Props to you for that. But the bottom line is, this kid Nolan Wells is dead, and he was the only one that was dead. What's wrong with, again, in the state of Mississippi? Not just with white boys. There were some dudes there as well. But he had other people there. He was the one that did not come home alive. Again, without an official accusation. What's wrong with having your suspicions raised and saying, listen, we need some damn answers. Something ain't right. He was a healthy young 18-year-old, and he didn't come home alive. How'd that happen? What's wrong with that?
Now, if they had context and all the information, and then they led with that, I would have no problem with it. But let me tell you this right now, Stephen A. Smith and Charles, I'm telling you right now, if a white boy was on an island with his black friends, all black, and some white folks put on a camera, that something must be suspicious because the one white boy is with all these black dudes, and something may have happened. We know that people covering it up and everything because these kids black. Man, we'd be pissed off on that. Ain't no way in the world I'd accept somebody saying, you gonna blame these black boys for doing something to this kid just because they black?
Boy, first of all, that shall come back. That's it right there. That's the crutch of it. Them boys would have been in jail for something. And they would have had to prove their way out of jail. If those same black boys practicing up under the black codes now somebody would have went to jail right now. You get that? You get that part. And I'm going to go as far as to say you, Tatum, would have been one of the first El Negros that would have jumped up and said those black boys did something to that white boy down in the greater state of Mississippi.
That's insane. And that's what happened in this situation.
If a white boy had been on that boat with 3 black boys, we would have seen a very different.
Where's your evidence? Give me a case.
History.
No history. You say history can tell us everything.
We would have seen please let me finish my statement. We would have seen a very different.
Give me an example.
Of the Central Park, the exonerated 5.
Well, first of all, 5 of them didn't go to prison. It was Central Park 5. Only 4 of them went to prison.
It was actually 6 of them, and 5 of them went to prison. And I'm not.
And let me tell you how they went to prison.
I'm not going to quibble with you.
You won't give content.
One at a time, guys. One at a time. One at a time.
You asked for an example. I'm not going to quibble with you and say, well, they're called the exonerated 5 and only 4 went to. I'm not going to do that. The exonerated 5. You wanted an example. I gave you an example.
That's not an equivalent example.
And there are other example throughout history, starting with Emmett Till and going throughout
Are you comparing this to Emmett Till?
You asked me.
No. Are you saying that this is equivalent to Emmett Till?
You asked me for an example.
So you're saying that it's equivalent?
Where if reversed?
Okay. I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm telling you. I'm giving you examples. What I'm telling you is that if the situation were reversed, we would have seen a very different investigation from law enforcement from the actual outset.
Let me interject.
We as a people, when it comes as a former prosecutor, because here's the thing, you're a former police officer, and that's fine. But when it comes to after arrests are made and how prosecutions are going, that's my space, that's my lane. So I'm going to speak from my lane. And what I can tell you is, we do not typically enjoy the benefit of
I want to thank you for pulling up on Kaazon's Truth. We'll put together a part 2 to this, or actually it'll be a part 3. Hopefully a little shorter. We just had more info, but not enough to solve the question. And that question is, what happened to Nolan Wells? If you have any questions or concerns, you can reach me at Kaazon. That'll be Kaazon at gmail.com. Support this channel by hitting that like button. Subscribe. We're trying to get up to 50 so we can live this thing up. We are. That is my intention. I'm telling you. Other than that, support this channel by sharing this. $ Kaazon Senior. Kaazon, capital S as in Sam, Aura as in railroad. And last but not least, followed by the $, of course. And Zelle, that can also be through the email. That's all we have. Until the next time. Peace.
Hold on. He's Officer Tatum, I don't blame Officer Tatum for bringing up, when, act incredulous when he says, you say Emmett Till, that's 1955. When Al Sharpton brought up Medgar Evers at the funeral, that's 1963. So if Officer Tatum's going to look at it and say, that's what you're bringing up, I get where he's coming from in terms of the distance between then and now. But I also get where you're coming from, Charles Coleman Jr., when you highlight, listen, from an historical perspective, we're talking about, we've seen things like this before, and those are just names that we know. There's a plethora of names that we may not have known that have transpired throughout history that have suffered some of these maladies, and we get that part too. Go ahead, Officer Tatum, floor is yours.
But